Hello Orchid friends, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time watching my video, my channel is all about orchids. From what orchids I have, how I grow them, my thoughts on certain orchid topics, to what orchids in my collection are blooming, etc. So if you want to follow along my orchid hobby adventure, please consider subscribing to my channel and turn on the notification. Today in this video, we're going to look at my Phalaenopsis Legato. So this is one of the 2 or 3 bigger Phalaenopsis orchid that I have in my collection. And this might have been the first orchid that I purchased after I moved down to Texas in America. And I think I got it at Sam's Club. This is a very common orchid, at least I've seen it quite a bit in a lot of the big box stores here. Sam's Club, Costco, and even Home Depot, I've seen Legato being sold. It's a very pretty complex hybrid. I really like its color, and for some reason my Legato, my particular one, this one, it's very sturdy. A friend of mine's Legato is struggling, and regardless what my friend does, it somehow is always not happy. So I suspect that there's something, whatever my friend is doing needs to adjust. Mine is just thriving. I don't even do a whole lot of special care. You know, in fact, there is no special care for this particular orchid. But anyway, so this orchid bloomed twice last year. The first time was, after I bought it from the store, it was blooming, and after that all the flowers were gone, it started to put out secondary spikes. And I think I might have done it. Yes, I did a video on its secondary spike blooms. And then this year, this video, we're gonna look at the flowers from the new spike that shooted out around fall, maybe October last year, 2018, and then it continued to grow over the winter time, and now spring 2019, it's now in full bloom. So overall, I think this orchid is pretty interesting because it doesn't really require a whole lot of special care, and it just grew and grew. I repotted this orchid after it finished all the blooms last year, and then it started to shoot out secondary spikes. What I did was I kept the bark chips that it came with, and the reason for that is I looked at the bark chips and I think that it was still in pretty good condition. I didn't think that it was all broken down. So what I did was I used a sifter. So I sifted out a lot of the smaller pieces and basically powdery, bark chips. And those might have been peat moss. It's not really degraded, broken down bark chips. But I kept the bigger pieces, and then I reused all those and repotted this orchid back into its original pot with its original media, bark chips. About 20%, so like 1/5 of the media was sifted out, was removed. So this orchid was potted a little high because I didn't have any bark chips left, and I didn't want to add hydroton or leca beads onto the top of the media. So I just let it be, and it still liked it. So it continued to grow into the media. Mini roots were growing, so it really just took off. There was no adjustment period or anything. I did a very gentle repot, so it worked really well. But at the beginning of the video, you might have seen that there were mushrooms growing in the media. And that was okay because it is, organic media, bark chips, and in the wild, mushrooms grow around trees, so it's very normal. So what I did was I used hydrogen peroxide, 3% hydrogen peroxide, and I basically just soak it for 20-30 minutes, and then I just take it out of the hydrogen peroxide solution, let it drip, and then I put it back where it was and allow a really wet dry cycle to continue, right? Because after it's soaked in hydrogen peroxide, after the hydrogen peroxide's property, the infecting property is finished, then whatever moisture that's left really is just water. So you don't need to rinse the media once again. And then I just put it back where it was, allow this really wet dry cycle to take place. In my environment, in the winter time, that wet dry cycle typically is about 10 days, and in summertime it's pretty much within about 5 days, 5 to 7 days, it's totally dry. But with bigger Phalaenopsis orchid, you really could stretch it to, because they have bigger leaves. So I personally don't give them water as soon as the media is completely dry. I usually wait until my other orchids need to be watered, and then I water this one. I soak this one at that time. And speaking of soaking orchids, especially for orchids potted in bark chips media, it's very important to flush your orchid in bark chips, right? It's important to flush it once a month. I don't do it more than once a month. I personally wouldn't. I do it once a month, because as your bark chips get older, it's gonna break down, and sometimes hitchhikers like bugs, some other insects may get into it. Especially if your orchids are exposed to the outside world, it's very likely that you're gonna have some bugs. So the flushing is really a good method to keep your media clean. It's never going to be 100% clean, but at least you're going to be able to help getting rid of the extra or unnecessary hitchhikers, insects, or just broken down media, or accumulated salt from the fertilizer. Here's a clip of this orchid in full bloom. It did have one bud blast, and it was the very tiny one toward the very end of its main flower spike. The rest of the flowers were perfectly fine. They opened as expected, and I really enjoyed looking at Legato. The color combination, I really like its orange lip, and then that light purple color around the edge of the sepals and petals. And the only thing I wish that this orchid would have is fragrance, but this one doesn't have fragrance. But I guess it would be too good to be true, right? This orchid would just be too nice if it's looking this perfect and have fragrance at the same time. Overall, I'm really happy with this orchid, and as you can see here, area roots are growing, and the newest leaf was very long, touching even the flat surface. This orchid is very large, and the flower spike is very long. I didn't want to stake it, but eventually I had to, because otherwise it's just getting too top heavy. This year, none of my orchids were using sticks for the flower spikes. But next year, I think I'm gonna try to train the flower spike a little bit more. I mean, this year I pretty much just let the flower spikes to grow however way they want to. Like this one, it's got that sort of cascade, but because there are still a few feet away from the window, so they kind of have this this oval trajectory versus like a straight up flower spike, but with a cascade directly coming down. So it's a little bit different, but next year I think that's something I'll do, just for a change. But overall, again, I really enjoy watching this orchid, and this orchid is currently sitting on the very top shelf of my orchid rack. And in the morning, when the morning light hits the flowers, like what you see here, it's so beautiful because morning light is softer, but then is bright enough to really allow me to see all the color and the color transition. So it's just a very rewarding orchid once again. This is all I have for you today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to get more orchid related videos from my channel, please subscribe and turn on the notification. I want to wish you happy growing, and I will talk to you in my next video. Ciao!